Malik Harrington here, Family Budget Fisherman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. As you read in the thumbnail and in the description below the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about a rod that I have been talking about a long time. And I did more, not really a review, but more of a first impression, along with the other rods. And that is the Ark Lancer Series Pro spinning rod. And I paired it, well, we'll talk about what I paired it with when we come back. All right, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to pull this rod up over here. This rod, and I'm going to make a statement, and this is a profound statement. I believe that the Ark Lancer series rod is the most valuable rod sold on the tackle warehouse site because of its kind of construction, although there are some compromises that there's an ambiguity that I have with it. Overall, I think that particularly for the beginner fisherman and the fun fisherman, not necessarily the tournament fisherman, because there are different things that need to go into a rod like this, but for the fun fisherman and for the beginner fisherman, this Ark series rod, Ark Lancer, is the most valuable. And here's why. It's all about construction. I don't care what anyone else tells you about rods and the kinds of things that are built around the rod blank. Know this for a fact. The rod blank is the rod blank is the rod blank. If you don't start off with a good rod blank, you can wrap a rod blank with anything. X-wrap and just name it. Your coils, honeycomb technology. I don't care what you wrap the blank with. If the blank is not as good as it should, the rod is not as good as it should be. This is a 40-ton modulus graphite rod blank in here. Now, it's not high modulus, it's modulus, okay? And there is a difference, but the difference, it's a difference without a distinction, is one that I'm going to note because of some things I'm going to say in a few moments. And based upon how rods are typically built. In this category, this is a $99 rod. Right now it's selling for about $75 on Tackle Warehouse's site. Anytime you get into the 40 tonnage, whether it's modulus or high modulus, you're talking about a rod that is at least $200, no matter what. Even with the price increases, you have to start at $200 when you get to 40-ton modulus or high modulus graphite. And the main reason is because the blank is the blank. I mean, you start off with a good piece and then you move from there. And so what Ark rods did to present this kind of a rod to fishermen who don't want to spend a whole lot on fishing equipment is amazing. So this is the 7-foot. Let me turn it so I can read it. It's going to look upside down to you momentarily. This is the 7'1" extra fast action, medium powered rod. Now the lure rating is 1/8 to 5/8, and the line rating is 6 to 12 pounds. I did pair it with the Regal LT 2500 DXH. And the reason why I paired it with that is because it in and of itself is a pretty good reel for a lot less than $100. You get with this reel, a reel that it's very light. It's a 6:2-to-1 gear ratio. The reel only weighs 7.4 ounces. The drag on this is 22 pounds. Now, if I were to take the specs of this rod combination and apply it anywhere in Tackle Warehouse, I'm talking about on a reel, I'm talking about a reel that's well over $150, quite possibly $200. As a matter of fact, on the Vanfords, the Tatulas have a 22-pound a drag system, and so do the Vanfords. I think the Vanfords go up to 24. So it's in the neighborhood of a $200 reel. Now it's not a $200 reel, but it has the structure system that could achieve that. Now, what makes this valuable as well? Now it's the components, okay, the reel, all right, and also the way that it's constructed. This rod is constructed in a way that takes advantage of both reaction baits and finesse baits. It's short enough where the handle doesn't get in your way for throwing reaction baits, but it's long enough if you want it to sit on your arm. As you can see, it takes a good portion of my forearm for finesse baits. Now, one caveat, the rod is a little stiff, and you don't realize it until you start throwing reaction baits. It's a little stiff, but it works. Now, when I say I threw the kitchen sink, I can list for you, 20 different baits that I threw on it. You would know them all in the categories of jigs, bass jigs, spinner baits. In the bass jigs, I'm talking about chatter baits and bass jigs like, your typical bass jigs. Kitex, diving plugs of every kind except for deep divers. I only use this rod to dive down to 12 feet. I threw it for crappie. I threw it for bass, trout, bluegill, catfish, if I didn't say catfish already, and salmon and striped bass. And I caught every single fish on this rod, and I was impressed. Now, I didn't catch a lot. I think I only caught maybe about 15 fish or so on this rod, but I caught enough to be able to give you the review and say, hey, this rod is what I envision. If I were to suggest to a beginner fisherman to start off with their best opportunity, this is the combo right here. It has everything in it that I would want for a beginner fisherman to have: the best advantage, the best sensitivity, the best drag system on a reel. Both of them, this is an emerging name, Ark rods, and this is an established name, being Daiwa. It has every component necessary for an individual to get out and do a decent job going fishing. Now, here are some of the shortcomings. The guide system. I'm not as impressed with the guide system. It's a combination of zirconia and aluminum. So it's aluminum, and then the tips I think the tips are zirconia as well. Yeah, the tips are zirconia. So it's kind of a medley there. I don't know, though, if they could afford to go up on the guide system. I think this is the best they probably could have done given the price point that they were offering for the merchandise. So I can live with it, particularly for a beginner fisherman. It's too much to think through for beginner fishermen. I think it's more than plenty. I would not recommend this rod for an advanced fisherman who wants to use this as a primary rod, but a person who, a weekend warrior type, this will be a really good rod. Or if you're not going to be fishing a whole lot, let's say you did fish a lot, but now you've retired from fishing, or you don't do it as much, and maybe you do it, up to about, say, 30 times a year. So, so I would recommend this to you just the same. It handles beautifully. The sensitivity is there for fun fishermen and for beginners. I think this rod can be responsible for more people turning a hobby, particularly those of you who started the hobby during the government enforced shutdowns, to making it a personal passion. This rod will give you that, or this combination will give you that best opportunity. Again, this is the Ark Lancer Pro Series rod. and it is paired with the Daiwa Regal 20 LT 2500 DXH, and that's what I did with it. I don't know how long these will be on sale. I don't know if they're discounting them out and replacing them, because all of them have, red numbers, meaning that these are on sale. So if you have the ends to go in there and make the purchase, go and make the purchase for these rods. Stack up on them, and you will not regret it. And I'm talking particularly, again, fun fishermen, weekend warriors, and beginner fishermen. Those of you who are experienced, you're going to have fun with this. I would say this will be your backup rod and reel combination. Let's say you're taking somebody fishing and they don't come with their own equipment. Not only is this really, really good equipment to put in their hands, but it's not going to cost you a whole lot if something goes wrong. So this is a worthwhile investment for you just the same. So there you have it. That is my performance review on it. Like I said, I threw a lot of different baits with it, and I am very happy with what it does. Check it out on Tackle Warehouse's site. I'm not affiliated with Tackle Warehouse. Not that I don't want to be. I'm just not. So with this, I'll say with this rod, you will not break your family budget trying to purchase this rod combination. So stick to that. And with all effort, stay within good ethics and within the law, and get out there and break your personal best. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great one. Blessings.